Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today we're going to be talking about Grendel. I'm not necessarily going to be making a guide on how to play Grendel. We're more so going to be talking about what I actually think of this frame. So to give you guys my first impressions on him, I really didn't like playing this frame whatsoever. From the fashion frame to making my build and trying him out in the simulacrum, I feel like this is one of the worst frames that DE has released as of recent releases. Really let me down. I was wondering if I was the only person that felt this way. And according to two different straw polls that I did one for YouTube and I did one on Twitter. You can see the one on YouTube in my community tab. If you want to go ahead and check that out, you can see all the responses. I'm not the only one that doesn't like Grendel. So a lot of you guys also don't like Grendel. You think that he's kind of a gimmicky frame, which I definitely agree with as well. He's totally based around eating. He's very tanky, but he does the tanking part a lot worse than a lot of other tanks like a Naros, Valkyr, etc. And there's just a lot better ways to do the things that he does that sort of stand out. So for example, you can heal up with his second ability. There's better ways to heal yourself. So the merits that he gets for the healing and maybe the armor stripping on his 4 and stuff like that, those are taken away from the fact that there are better ways to do those said things, because the ways that he does said things are just less efficient than the other ways. So for example, the healing, right? You can just go ahead and you can press 5 to use your operator arcanes to heal yourself up, and then with the armor stripping you can use corrosive projection, you can proc corrosive, etc, etc. So yeah, this is a very disappointing frame. The farm to get him, you have to remove all of your mods from your Warframe and your weapons and do a bunch of endurance missions. In my opinion, that's crazy because it's like counterintuitive of the whole game design of the game, where you have to sort of like go out of your way to farm all these mods and all these cool Warframes and make all these cool builds, and then you're put into a mission where you're not allowed to use any of that, right? So it's like artificial difficulty, really. It's something different, but for this frame, nah. Not it, Chief, at least in my opinion. But yeah, we'll do like a quick demonstration on how the frame works and what I was sort of expecting whenever I seen the initial frame design whenever I came back to the game. So originally what you do is you eat up the bad guys, right? So you eat the bad guys by pressing 1. I need to get a little bit closer. You eat the bad guys by pressing 1, and you can see down the bottom right hand corner that we've got the number 2 over our first ability. So the first ability is eating the bad guys and storing them in your belly. So whenever they're in your belly, what you can do is you can shoot them out with your third ability, which deals not a large amount of damage to the target that it hits, but it deals a decent amount of damage to the target that is the projectile, right? So you can see that the armor was stripped away from this guy while he was in our stomach. Whenever we shot him out, it did a fair amount of damage, right? The other thing we can do is we can turn the enemy that is within our stomach into a buff. Now, there are, I believe, 3 different buffs. The ones that you want to be getting, or the one that you want to be getting is, I think, called Strike. So this one is Nourish Strike. This one is basically like a damage increase, right? It's a damage buff. It's pretty good. And then there's other ones that increase armor and make it so you get more energy from all sources, which, cool, right? But nothing too insane. And then we have our 4th ability, where we are able to deal damage to the enemies that are within our stomach and also like roll over enemies that are on the battlefield, right? So if we go ahead and we eat up a bunch more enemies, what we can do is we can press 4. Need to get a little bit more energy for this, because the more enemies you hold in your stomach, the more energy it deals over, or more energy it drains over time. We go ahead and we press 4 and we turn into what everybody calls a meatball. What we can do from that point is we can jump and just damage enemies around us. The enemies that are in your stomach will die eventually. It just takes a little bit of jumping around and, bashing into the floor. And then you have also the gimmick of, running over the enemies that are not in your stomach as well. So there's all the enemies that were in my stomach dead. So we can come out of our 4. And then we basically rinse and repeat. I don't think that he is a frame worth investing format into whatsoever. You can spend platinum on him to get the farm out of the way, or you can put yourself through the pain of actually, like, you know, farming him up, doing those missions that require you to take off all your mods. But in my opinion, this is a very disappointing frame. Whenever I originally seen the fat type of Warframe, I immediately thought, like, this is going to be a sumo, right? Whose abilities are going to be like miniature rhino stumps that are more fluid, right? So, you know, like the whole, you'd see a sumo like bouncing around in an arena or something, they had like belly flop. Well, maybe they wouldn't belly flop with their stomach, but, you know, they would do that cool like leg slam that Grendel actually just did, so the animation is sort of there. But I was more so thinking like, he's gonna be a guy who can fluidly do like a miniature rhino stump, like during melee combat or something like that, or just combat, you know? So it's like reduced range, decent duration rhino stump, and he's gonna have like a belly slam ability where you can sort of like slam into enemies with your stomach that can knock them in the walls and deal similar damage to the likes of whenever you're shooting an enemy a frost snow globe or something like that. If they bash into a wall, that's the type of thing that I thought Grendel was going to be. And then the whole eating thing, like, that would have, like, buffed you up or something like that. But, you know, here we have Grendel, who is just, like, a gimmick frame. Like, I wouldn't even necessarily call him fun. I didn't have fun fashion framing him or leveling him or, you know, doing anything with him, really. Goss is 10 times better than Grendel, at least in my opinion. And to talk about the fashion frame, in my opinion, is also pretty boring with this frame, right? So you have the primary color, which, you know, is basically like 90% off this frame, really, and you've got like minor details on the secondary and the tertiary, right? So, you know, it's all right, but it just could be a lot better. In my opinion, there could be a lot more detail added to the fashion of this frame. But yeah, I was really let down by this frame. He's pretty tanky, don't get me wrong, and let me show you the build that I have for him as well. He's pretty tanky, but like I said, he's not as tanky as the likes of Valkyr or a Naros or anything like that. But yeah, I just went for a sort of jack of all trades in the stats department. I know in Brozem's video, he went for less duration on his build. That's fine as well, because he just wanted to get the healing from the buffs on the second ability, which is totally fine. But I don't know. So Nourished Energy is an energy multiplier. Nourished Armor, the damage stat, it's like a kind of like a Shatter Shield that reflects damage back at the enemies. It's got a radius to it as well. Nourished Strike, which is your damage multiplier, which I would like to get to 2, but should I invest more Forma to throw on more power strength, and what would I change? I don't know, because you can't really take off the range, because if you take off the range, then you're reducing the range of the 1, which is a good selling point for him. You're reducing the range of the 4. I don't know. I'm not excited to mod this frame, you know what I mean? And it's not because, you know, I was burnt out on Warframe once upon a time. It's just because this frame design, in my opinion, has been one of the worst frames that DE has put out as of recent. And I don't know, I think that with the theme that he has, the fat sort of sumo wrestling looking type, it could have been handled a lot better. They probably won't change up like his kit anytime soon, at least. I don't think that necessarily buffing his abilities is going to do any good. They could buff the duration into 2. They could, you know, make it so your Regurgitate, your third ability, does a little bit more damage. They can make Pulverize, so your Meatball ability, they can make this way more satisfying to use, right? Like, make it deal way more damage and all of the above. Like, maybe even add, like, I don't know, something that would just make this a little bit more satisfying is, like, a sound effect when you're, like, running into enemies. Like, what's that game called? Is it Ping Pong? I forget. It's something, I don't know. I forget what the game is called. But, like, whenever you're playing as a ball in a game and you hit into something that makes, like, a ding sound, that would, like, at least, like, it feels like we're going down the meme route with this Warframe. That would make it a little bit more satisfying to play. You know, just that ding sound effect. And if it dealt, like, a little bit more damage, that would be cool. And then Feast, you know, it's alright. It's cool. It reduces the enemy's armor, and it does that pretty quickly. I would say that the first ability is definitely the best ability in this kit, just because of that armor reduction. So, you know, that guy already has his armor took off. Let's go ahead and eat them both up. And then you can see that we deal a little bit of damage over time as well. So that's cool. Spit them back out with our third ability. And neither of them have armor. So very short amount of time that you have to wait to get that armor taken off. But I don't know. I really dislike Grendel. I put out the polls to ask you guys what you thought. This was the highest rated response. I personally think Grendel is essentially useless. I can't find anything he does that other frames can't do better. He is extremely underpowered, and his energy drain from holding enemies in his stomach is way too high. Why can't I hold like 90 enemies in my stomach? That doesn't seem overpowered or game breaking, really. It seems like DE is afraid to make powerful frames anymore because it risks breaking the game's balance. Even though they can nerf any ability in seconds, he can't even roll up a hill, and he has little to no synergy with Goss. I haven't yet seen a build or a game mode where he is useful, and he's just boring and annoying to play. I've genuinely been pretty disappointed in most new frames as of late, with the exception of Wisp. And, you know, this comment, I would agree with it. I like Goss a little bit. I was disappointed with the modding of Goss, right? So the fact that, like, every single build that you see of Goss is going to be heavy duration, because that just makes sense on him. You know, there's no sort of like reason to build into power strength, essentially. There's no necessarily any reason to build into range. And I know you guys made the argument like, oh, you can slam in the walls with the one with Goss, but you know, like, if you want to play Warframe slamming in the walls 24/7, be my guest, but that's not how I play Warframe. You know what I mean? I don't want to slam into walls all the time. I want to like run around and fucking bullet jump and aim glide and all that stuff, and just, you know, pull off some cool shit in Warframe. I don't want to be bashing in the walls all the time. I don't think that that's fun. I don't mean to be toxic, but they released him in need of a rework, which is super sad, because me and my friends were really looking forward to do some long survival defense runs with Goss and Grendel combo. Edit. So glad you're back to Warframe content. By the way, I hope this comment can be taken as pure criticism of the frame, not as the toxicity. So I have to refute taking back the frame. I did enjoy the way you had to farm him, though. Unmodded missions were actually kind of challenging and took a moment to think about the team setup, plus having to visit another game mode arbitrations to get the node incorporated other parts of the game to grind him. Overall, more guaranteed drops with medium grind and actual challenge is exactly what I enjoy from content drops. DE really impressed me with that one. So, like, it is true that whenever you go out of your way to farm up Grendel, like, whenever you do the things that you have to do to get him, you are guaranteed the drop at the end of the day. But, I don't know. Like, if I was your average player and I wasn't a YouTuber for this game, and, you know, I didn't just have a shit ton of plat lying around, I wouldn't go out of my way to farm this frame. And I also wouldn't go out of my way to farm up the platinum to buy this frame either. This frame is just very unappealing and very hard for me to recommend. And I just think that they could have done better. And that's an honest criticism. You know, that's not me whining or anything like that. Not my frame. If you guys like him, more power to you. I know that there's going to be that one guy or those few people out there who are going to be like, what do you mean Grendel's great? You're being too harsh. But, like, I don't know. I can have an opinion as well. And I honestly think that D can do better. Goss and Wisp were, I would say, way better in terms of design than Grendel was. And I just think he can be way better. Here's hoping for the next Warframe that they are actually really good and really fun to play. But with all that being said, that's going to be it from me. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, go ahead, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike. And I will see you guys in the next Warframe video.